Hello and welcome to another series of Figma Design System tutorial by Pixels. In this tutorial, we will create this dashboard looking page. We will work with tables and elements which are already inside Figma Design System. So let's not waste any more time and dive right into it. Here I've already created an artboard to work on. However, this is for a desktop of size 1440, which is going to be a little bit too small for us. So we're going to change this slightly. So let's get the sizes from this artboard, which is 1512 by 1048. So we're going to change that by 1048. There we go. Now, I've already set up a grid on this. However, this grid is a little bit too small. We're going to go ahead and first actually detach the grid, and we're going to add more columns. 12 columns is not enough for us, so we're going to change this to 16. And just for the sake of this artboard to look nice, I'll also add a border radius of 8 and give it an effect of Drop Shadow 2. Now we're going to create the sidebar. For that we'll need its width, so that's 72 by 1048. On our main artboard we're going to go ahead and create a frame 72 by 1048, and I'm going to align this. Okay, as you can see, the width size is the same as the grid's column size, and I can't really see it, so I'm going to turn off the grid for a moment. Now we will need a small vertical divider, so in the assets section we're going to search for a divider, and we're going to look for a vertical one, drag and drop it over here. It's 1 by 72, so we'll also have to change the height to 1048 and align it inside the sidebar. Okay, and for this sidebar I'm also going to give it a fill of light background. Okay, now we're going to start from the top and create this placeholder logo. For this we'll need to create another frame of size 48 by 48, and give it a border radius of 8 and a stroke of light grayscale. There we go. And let me align this to the center. Okay, it's supposed to be 12 pixels apart, so I'm going to do the same exact thing over here. Looks like this is 22. There we go. Okay, now for this placeholder we will need an icon, and for that we're going to the icon section and look for the images over here, and we're going to choose this icon, copy it, go back to our project and paste it. Now this icon looks a little bit too small, so I'm going to actually change the size to 32 by 32, align it to the center. Okay, that looks much better. Our placeholder logo is done. Now we'll create the main menu for this sidebar, which is this section over here. For that we'll need to go into the assets section, and under icons and action I'm going to look for the assessment icon, drag and drop it. The size is a little bit too small, so I'm going to change that to 28 by 28, and I'm going to align it with this to the center. Okay, that looks good. Now let's see what's the difference between this icon and this. So that's 38. So I'm going to fix that really quick. 48, 38, perfect. Now I'm going to duplicate this and let's see the size difference. It's 48. So a really quick trick, select both of them, enable the auto layout, put this to be 48. Now I'm just going to select one of them, hit duplicate, 5 times because we have 5 icons over here, and each icon will have a difference, pixel difference of 48. Now we can go ahead and change the icon type. So this is called work, folder, and build. That is work, folder, build. And this one is view agenda. Okay, there we go. Oh, it looks like we also have a small settings icon at the bottom. So from the assets, I'm gonna look for settings, drag and drop it, change the size to 20 by 28, put it to the bottom. Yeah, align it really quick. Looks like this is supposed to be 24 pixels away. That's 18, so okay, perfect. Now for this folder, we need to activate it. So we're gonna select, and we're gonna change this to a blue color. Now we have a background of light blue. For that, let's go to the layers, choose the work, and I'm going to hit the R button on my keyboard and draw a rectangle around it and give it the size of 48 by 48 with a border radius of 8, and change the fill to light background. I'm going to align this with my mouse and then move the rectangle. Our sidebar is complete. Now we'll work on the top bar over here. For that, we'll need the sizes, so it's 1440 by 72. On our main artboard, I'm going to create another frame of 1440 by 72. I'm going to align it to the top. Now I'm going to need another divider. For that, I'm going to go into the assets and search for a divider. And this time we're going to need the horizontal one. I'm going to drag and drop it. Give it the width of 1440. And align it to the bottom, left. Now for the text fields over here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 text fields. So I'm going to select the frame, press T on my keyboard, and just write company. And I'm going to duplicate this. And let me see the spacing in between. That's 44. So I'm going to go back here, select these both, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. Enable the auto layout, give it a spacing of 44. Now we can go ahead and duplicate this 4 more times because we have 4 text fields over here. So that's company, users, expenses, enter, and currency exchange. Now we're gonna align this to the center, and this is 44 by 24. So that is 44 by 24. Okay, now once we have our text, I'm gonna select this, change the color to grayscale 200, and it should be all aligned perfectly. Okay, now we're gonna create this tab effect of this blue. We're also gonna need another horizontal divider. I'm gonna change the size to 4 pixels. Now let me check really quick the width. It's 61 by 4. Okay. I change the width to 61. To the bottom. Change the color to blue to make it active, and by pressing the shift key I'm gonna align it to the center of the user's text. Okay, it looks good right now. We'll also have to change the color of this to blue so it matches the color of our tab bar. Now let's create the other half of the top bar, which is this section over here. For that we'll need a button and some elements over here. So in the assets, let's look for a button. Drag and drop it, and we're going to change the size to medium. And it's going to be deposits. Now for this middle element, we'll need a text, a counter, and an icon. For that, we will go into the assets under UI components. We're going to look for text and icon. That's this one here. Drag and drop it. And again, we're going to change the size to medium. We don't need this right icon, so I'm going to turn that off. For the counter, I'm going to write. Let's change the there we go. Change also the counter color to red. For the label, we're going to write messages. Okay, messages, and we'll need a icon of mail. Now for the text field, we'll actually have to change it to H516. There we go. And now for the last section, we have this element over here. So we have an avatar, a name, and an icon. So let's go back to our assets. Under UI components and avatars, we're going to choose an avatar, drag and drop it, and we're going to change the type to avatar plus one line. Let's go ahead and give it a name, James Smith. And for the avatar section, we're going to change the style to photo. So I've got a preset photo over here. If you want to change that and upload it from your computer, you can also do it from this section. Or you can right click and use the Unsplash plugin if you want a different random image. Now, right next to this, we will need an icon. So let's see what kind of icon. So this looks like the icon difference is, space difference is 4 pixels, and the icon name is arrow drop down. So let's go ahead and look for an arrow drop down. I'm going to drag and drop it here. And I'm going to align to the center. And I'm going to enable the auto layout and do this. Now let's go ahead and fix this. Okay, that looks perfect. Oh, let's go ahead and change the status, the color, to green, so James Smith is actually online. So we've got that going. Now let's see the difference over here. So that's 32. So I'm going to select all the elements, enable auto layout, and 32. Okay, that looks a little bit messed up, so we're gonna change that. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna select all these elements, put it to the center, and I believe it was 24 pixels away. 16 by 24. And finally, we're gonna change the background of this frame to light background secondary. Now we'll work on this section over here, the user section. Now in order to create this, we have to find out the width of this block. So I'm going to select this. So that's 312 pixels. So we're going to go back to the main artboard and create the frame of width 312. Align it to this corner. And I'm going to select this all the way down. Okay, now for this to stick out, we're going to give it a background color of light gray. Okay, now we need the text and the search bar. So for the text, we're going to hit the T button on our keyboard for text and write users. We're going to give it a caps of 12 regular and change the color to grayscale 300. Now we want this text to be 24 by 24 away from this corner. So on our X and Y axis, we're going to do 24 by 24. So that looks good. Now we will need a search bar. In our assets, we're going to look for a search bar. Drag and drop it. Okay, that looks a little bit too big. We're going to change the size to medium. And this looks a little bit too short. So let's go back to our example. So it's 264 by 40. And the difference is 16. So what I'm going to do is change this to 264. Align it to the center. I'm gonna select this also and to 16. We're gonna select our search bar and change the background to light. Moving on to the block elements here, we'll create a new frame and give it its sizes. So let's see the sizes of these elements. So it's 264 by 113. So on our artboard, we're going to create a new frame of 264 and 113. We're going to give it a border radius of 8. And let's align this really quick. And we're going to give it a drop shadow effect of number 2 and a fill of light background. Let's really quickly look at the difference. So that's 12 pixels apart. Change this to 12. Now we will need an avatar with a name. So again, we're going to go back to the UI elements, go to avatar, choose this one, drag and drop it, and we will choose the avatar plus one line, and we will not need the status. So we're going to turn that off, and we're going to change the style to photo. And let's go ahead and actually use the Unsplash plugin and look for a lady. This looks okay. Okay, she is not Mike Brown. Just gonna copy it from here. Catherine Murphy. Take this, And let's see where. So that is 16 by 16. So we're gonna choose this element, 16 by 16. Now we will need another divider, a horizontal divider. I'm gonna go back to the assets, look for a divider, drag and drop it, and let's see really quick. So that's 232. It's 232, and it's 12 pixels apart spacing. So add that to the center. This. Perfect. Okay, now we will need a badge or a label for this section. So again, in our assets, we're going to look for a badge, drag and drop it over here. Now for this badge, we will set the style to tertiary, so it looks like this. But again, we also need a small icon, so we're going to turn on the left icon. There we go. Let's go ahead and change the name to design. And for this icon, insights. Sites. And we will change the color to green, and we want this to be aligned like this. And as for the text field, we can grab it from this section. Just copy that and paste it and align this to the center. That's all 16 by 16, so that looks good. Now we're going to go ahead and duplicate this. That's 12 pixels apart. Now we're going to select all three, add an auto layout, grab one of them, duplicate it 5 times. Yep, that's correct. Now this section we will just have to go ahead and do the exact same as on the right side. So we can just make this quick. I know this is repetitive. I could have just skipped over in the video, but I won't, because when learning design, it's very important to do things over and over again, and that's the main way you're going to learn. So let's go ahead and use the plugin Unsplash. So Ralph, say, or a guy. There we go, that's Ralph. For Albert, how about we type Albert? Is there an Albert? Oh, there's Albert Einstein, so forget about that. This looks like an Albert. And for Jane, let's go this one. Or this one. And finally for Ronald, yeah, this looks like a Ronald. Now, as for these badges, this one is orange. Sales. account balance wallet. Account balance wallet. Marketing blue. Let's look at the icon type. String. Marketing. Make it blue. And change the icon to stream. Oops. Stream. Okay, now for design, let's keep this design. Again, what we can do is just copy this, paste it, and from the badges here we can delete that one. There we go, much more easier. As for text, same applies. All we have to do is actually, so give a stroke of 2. There we go. This section is now complete. For the main section here, we'll create another frame. So let's go ahead and look at the frame size. So it's 1128 by 976. Okay. Create another frame. 1128 by 976. We're going to do right bottom. So that should fit perfectly. Let's see. Yep, looks good. Now for this corner, there's a border radius of 12. So we're gonna hit this, and for the left top, we're gonna do 12. We'll also give this a drop shadow of 2 and fill it with a light background. And for the corners to be seen over here, we'll select our main artboard and change the fill color to light. So as you can see, this corner is now visible. Now we will need to create an avatar, 64 by 64, and it is 32 away. Back to our assets and UI components, we need an avatar. Change the size to 64. We do not need the status. And for the placeholder, we'll do photo and use Unsplash again, or you can upload it from your own computer, whichever one is easier for you. We'll add an avatar. And this was actually 32, 32. So we're gonna select this. Let's do this. And 32. Now let's go ahead and work with the text fields, and just before that, I'm actually gonna change this. I'm not really liking it. Let's go ahead with the real Ralph Edwards. Now we need the name. We can just take it from here. And the size is heading to 36. Heading to 36. Let's align this 20 apart. So select this both. 20. Good to go. Now we'll have to create this account balance. For that, I'm going to hit the T button, write account balance, and give it paragraph 2 heading with a light grayscale of 300. Now we can just copy this text field, it's not very important. And let me just really quick see, that's 4 spacing in between. So let's do 4 for this. Now we will need a button on the right side. So from the assets, we're going to choose a button, change the size to medium, style to secondary, and type to oval. And for the icon here, we will need more horizontal. Now, for these 2 elements, I'm going to enable the auto layout and do from right to left. Now let's go ahead and choose this, put it to the center. It's supposed to be 20 pixels apart. Choose both, all of them. Auto layout. There we go. Now for this, we're going to align it. It's supposed to be, I believe, 36 and 32. Yep, that's correct. 36, 32. So that's 31. Now on to the next section, which are the tabs. For the tabs, we're actually going to need the assets. So we're going to go into UI components and look for tabs, which is right over here. We're going to choose the underline tab. And from the properties, we're going to choose 5 tabs. However, on this example, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to select our tabs, right click, and detach instance. So that is detached. We're going to choose one more tab, hit Command D for a duplicate, all fixed. So we're going to go ahead and really quickly add these, just copy and paste. Okay, notifications and cards. So that is all set. Now let's set this. Let's see. It says 32 by 32. 32, 36. Okay, looking good. And lastly, we will need a divider again. As you can see, there's a thin line over here. So a divider, horizontal one, and I believe the frame size was 1128. Yep, that's correct. And we want it to be under this, so I'm going to select this, do top and bottom. So that is all set. We will work on the top portion over here, these 3 elements. So these are 2 buttons. I'm going to go ahead and create a button, drag and drop it, change the size to medium, style to secondary, and we're going to add a left and a right icon. Now for the left icon, we need a calendar, and for the right one, a drop down arrow. So let's see what we can do here. Calendar. For this one, drop or arrow drop. Okay, now we're going to add the text, which is last 30 days. Okay, that looks correct. Now we're going to duplicate this. And we will not be needing the left icon. And for the right icon, looks the same. We're just gonna change the text to filter by. And let's look at the as 12 part. So I'm gonna choose this, and I'm gonna add the auto layout with 12. We need to create this part, so that's page 1 of 4 and 2 left and right buttons. These are actually not buttons, these are actually ready-made components. So in the UI components, we're going to look for pagination and choose this first one. We will need to get rid of this part. So let me just turn that off. And for the left button, we'll just need the arrow itself. And same for the right button. Select this, line it. Just to double check. Yep, that looks good. Now we're going to create the main content, which is this section. We're going to start with the top. So we're going to need a table heading. So let's go, and in our UI components, we're going to look for table and header with text. So there is the header text. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 headers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. Select both of them, enable auto layout, and I'm going to do 0. Choose this, duplicate this 5 times for our headers. Now, let's see. Change the text. And for the amount, as you can see, this is aligned to the right. So I'm actually going to do like this. Choose this and to the right. And lastly, it is date. Now each component here has its own size. So this is 164. $216. 303. 147. $122. And there's a little bit of space left here, so we're going to use the header empty. Go back to the project, assets, header empty, and I'm going to align it. And let's see, that's 112. And lastly, we have to align this. Okay, that's 16 by 32. Now we're going to create the main content, and we're going to attempt to create this part over here. So let me see what this is. So this looks like an icon. This is a text again, image, and texts. Okay, so in our UI components, we're going to go down to table and cell, and we're going to choose first an icon, and then some text. I will need some images. I change this image really quick to avatar to an image. Okay, so that is icon, text, avatar, and we've got more texts. So we can actually duplicate these. So that's text, another text, and another text. Okay, so sometimes the auto layout feature does not work, so what you have to do is actually go ahead and group them. So that's Command and G, or right click and group selection. Once selected as a group, now you can add the auto layout, and we're going to do 0 for this part, and we're going to choose this two also, hit 0, and align it to the left. Okay, now let's quickly work with this, and then we can move on to the remaining ones. Okay, now at the end we will need 2 more icons. So these two are actually 2 separate icons. So we have text. How many texts do we have? 1, 2, 3, and then icon. Okay, so we have an icon over here. What you can do is select this, duplicate it, and once selected with the right arrow key, you can move it to the far right of this element block. And I'm going to need one more, so duplicate it. There we go, so that should work. Now we're going to fix the sizes. So that's 56 in width. Okay, that is correct. This is a 108. Let's change this to 108. Now we have 48 and 168. 48, 168. Our second text field is 303 and 147. 303, 147. How many text do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're missing a text field. So I'm going to choose this, duplicate it. There we go. And this is supposed to be this one here. That's 122. And our icons, 56 by 56. So it should be preset. Okay, now let's fill out the content of this site, and before that we're going to change the text field here to be aligned right under this amount. So we're going to choose align right, and we're going to change the heading to this size. Okay, what is left is we would have to fill out this content. This is time lapse. And it is set to orange. For the text to and for this text we'll have to do red. So I'm going to actually hard code it. So negative the $120.00, and I'm going to give it a red color. It's a little bit bold. And for this text field we'll have to change it a little bit because we have text and a smaller text. So in the type here we're going to do text plus small text. And we're going to get the information from here so I don't have to type it up. Okay, and here there is the icon put to invisible. I'm going to actually leave it just in case. And I'm actually going to use this one. So that is attach file and more horizon. So attach file, more horizontal. I'm actually gonna upload an image. There, looking good. Did we miss anything? I don't think so. Okay, so this element is all good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it, Command D, bring it down. Now I'm going to select all three of them, enable auto layout with 0, and I'm going to grab one of them, hit duplicate 9 times because we have 9 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm going to fill this up really quick and get back into the video again, so I'm not going to waste your time too much. Now for the final part of this dashboard, we'll have to create this bottom part. So for that, we'll go into the assets, under UI components and pagination. We're going to choose the second one over here, drag and drop it. Looks like there are 4 pages with a left and right icon. Okay, so for us to make this go away, we're going to go into the layers and we're just going to make them go invisible and just leave 4 of them. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now for this one we're going to make this the current page and make this just a regular page. Let's change the text. To align this, it's supposed to be, let's see, 16 by 32. It's 32 by 23. Okay, looks good. Now for this side, we will go back to the assets and choose go to page element. Gonna align it to the center. And this should also be 16 by 32. And by the way, for this section over here, we can also go ahead and go to the layers and just make it invisible. Looks like everything is done, everything's complete. Looks pretty good. Thank you for watching this tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you in the next one. Have a good one.